Nostalgia can be funny sometimes. Yeah, you get the annoying Ready Player One style slop that makes my colon clench, or dudes on this website standing in front of their Funko Pop shells mewing about their past, and it just comes off as a midlife crisis. But for me, I rarely get frothy over anything from my past. So when I replayed Killer 7 for this show, not only was I surprised at how well it held up, but I loved it more than ever. So anyway, here's Shadows of the Damned. We start this story controlling this slab of offal called, and I'm not making this up, Garcia fucking Hotspur, who after a day of killing demons is on his way home. After dealing with some intruders and obnoxious tutorial pop-ups, Garcia is stunned to find his squeeze, Paula, listening to The Swinging Man by Black Flag. But this edgy display is a trap, as this hellish Melvin kidnaps our SO and brags about it like a teenage ingrate.
Admit that your endowments will never measure up to my own.
After some penile flirtations, Garcia follows his nemesis through a portal and wakes up in, well, hell. And then we're introduced to his sidekick, Johnson. Oh, sorry, didn't I mention this was a Suda51 trip? And yeah, this is quite the breakout game for Grasshopper, as it was their first PS360 game and a reunion with one of his old running buddies at Capcom, Shinji Mikami. And if you have watched this show for any length, you know I'm a big fan of their work. And oh look who's crashing this party, oh my god, it's Akira Yamaoka. Yes, if that superstar tag team wasn't making your panties soggy, here comes the old strat stroker himself to score the soundtrack. I guess he got bored of Konami after the 15th attempt to keep Silent Hill relevant. Also, you may have noticed a G instead of F in our main man's moniker, because we aren't playing the original game. No, we are playing the quote Hella remaster that came out last year. And while I'm glad the game is no longer exclusive to consoles, sadly it's a bare bones port. While this is not offensive to me, as I personally prefer a straight port over messing with the aesthetics, but calling itself a remaster is stretching that term like a malfunctioning penis pump. And while it's easy to sit here on my fat ass and take the piss, that is why I'm doing it. God damn, just look at this place. Yes, it's sharper now, but its opening level is a prime example of art style over graphical grunt. And while this isn't a survival horror game, you can see Shinji Mikami's hands all over this. Sure, the gameplay is Resident Evil 4, and I guess it's a case of stick to what you know, but the way it looks, like a moodier version of The Evil Within, a game that Mikami did after this, cannot be denied. Did one inspire the other? Perhaps. But I'm a sucker for creepy villages, and this one has that vibe. And speaking of the locals, it seems like they want a taste of Garci's weapon, and he's more than happy to give it to them.
They're not very talkative.
What have they got to talk about? Once your soul rolls into town, that's it. You're damned. And Fleming doesn't let anybody off the hook.
He sounds like a real dictator.
Yep, our lead is voiced by gruff shooty everyman Steve Blum. Okay, the Spanish accent will probably get him cancelled now, but he's a pro. And the next few rooms we are subjected to the usual tutorial bollocks. So to skip all that crap, the main loop is your standard 2011 action game affair, of going from one room to another to shoot a wave of goons. And while the blasting is cathartic, and the feedback of the meat bags you fill with lead feels good, it's a tad basic. Same with the puzzles that mess with light and darkness, that do over time gradually build in complexity. Once again, this is pretty standard stuff. But my god is it so mundane, and these quote puzzles feel like stalling, especially when you realise the levels are super small. And while I prefer a focused linear experience, the way you are pushed from room to room to do what is essentially the same thing over and over again, in the end wore me down. And I think the problem here for me is how naked these loops are. Recently I've been replaying the original Tomb Raider trilogy, and while the gameplay, just like Shadows, is pretty limited, the way it keeps the gameplay fresh by teasing you with new visually interesting areas distracts you from the grind. While Shadows does share the same moment-to-moment structure, this feels like an obligation. The same can be said with the upgrade system, where through exploration you collect red gems that increase your ammo and shot damage. And while this gives the player a hint of agency and choice, this is just shorthand to keep the player engaged. Oh yeah, check it out, I'm killing things 10% faster. Can you tell? So the only thing that really drives this hog is our protagonists. And while I find Johnson, voiced by Greg Ellis, entertaining, granted the man himself can get fucked for a fine mesh screen, in comparison to our gruff lead, Garcia on the other testicle is a c***. Sure, the dick jokes he spits out like an edgy alpaca did make me laugh, but in comparison to Suda's other leads, Garcia is pretty one note. While you do get insights about him and his relationship to Paula later, you never get a sense of Garcia as a character. Like Travis Touchdown from No More Heroes shares the same snarky edge, but his Johnny Knoxville style bravado is pushed to the side to reveal his true self as, well, Suda's OC, a wrestling-obsessed pop culture dweeb who landed into the seedy world of killing assassins because he was broke and couldn't afford to buy video games. While his seasoning creates a fun avatar, over time, you root for him. Unlike Garcia, who comes off as a gamer asshole and stays this way throughout the entire game, which is appropriate considering who is bankrolling this project. And while Shadows is not a horror game, I have a jump scare for you.
Oh, that's greasy.
That's really fucking greasy.
Yeah, it's greasy.
Yep, the original publisher for Shadows of the Damned was Electronic Arts. And on its face, this doesn't seem like a big deal. But if you are of a certain vintage, seeing this logo should fill you with dread. Pearl Collection aside, when you think of quirky games from the likes of Grasshopper, the thought of them shacking up with a label that gorges on sports ball and Pearl driving your favourite franchises into the shadow realm is a tad weird. But saying that, the games industry in Japan wasn't free for in the mid-2000s, when the cost of developing for these new high-definition consoles skyrocketed, so most AA studios either pivoted to mobile or the Wii to stay afloat. And while Grasshopper prides itself on being punk, they cannot run away from the fact that if you want to make big games on big systems, you're going to need the capital. So shacking up with EA at this time to get this shit bankrolled makes sense. Hell, the original idea of Shadows of the Damned wasn't even supposed to be a shooter, it was more an adventure game. And looking through these preview shots, it looks more like a slice-of-life JRPG, instead of, well, this. Anyway, we'll speak more about the devil later, because right now it's boss fight time. You psyched? Well, don't, because all you have to do is shoot the red thing on its back until it falls over. Okay, fine. I might be ragging on what I love about Suda's work, as he creates video games in 100-foot high letters, but I cannot deny, this is pretty lame. And what sucks is when I played this when it first came out, I had a blast, but now, I don't know. And the only thing I keep going back to is how the game relies on its characters to paper over these cracks by carpet bombing you with dick jokes. And don't get your foreskin twisted, I like a good knob gag, but an entire game based on meatless tinted mirth might be a cock ring too far for me. Sure, once or twice, yeah, go off king. More than that, it sounds like you're having an issue, and now you're thrusting it in my face. And could you not, Jerry, I'm trying to eat my hot dog. At least Yamaoka is here to save us, with his trip-hoppy licks.
Paula, wait! Stop running, my love! Paula, where are you?
Which is a perfect beat to watch Paula being turned into lingerie-wearing lunch meat. Well, this is killing my stiffy. And yes, it's another boss fight, where you play hide and seek with this tub of giblets to knock him down and shoot his weak spot. And I have to say, who coded this? Caleb Goldman? Lucky for us, getting through these bland encounters awards us with blue gems. That gives us some new toys to play with, like the Tifa, which shoots rapid barrages of pearly whites at your foes. And when it's fully modded, these projectiles home in on targets. And you will need that firepower. While the game lacks in enemy variety, it makes up with sending dozens at you, to an, in my personal opinion, obnoxious degree. As I said earlier, there are so many times here where I felt like I'm being artificially stored. Like this later part when you're trailing behind a Dayglow slug, and you have to defend yourself by answering a series of general knowledge questions. If only. No, you just shoot wave upon wave of dudes. And it's so obvious this is taking up time. It's like, yeah, the darkness brings a bit of tension because you're not quite sure where your enemies are coming from. But yeah, this is a waste of time. And a pastime where you waste time, which would be pretty meta, very Suda. But I think I'm giving him too much credit here. And it's vexing, especially when this whole level is one massive homage to the Evil Dead. Which is cool. I like a bit of Evil Dead, but I don't remember Ash having to put up with this. Now, running away from a Deadite, that's more like it. Sadly for us, sprinting away from a she-bitch is a clunky affair. That feels rushed, pardon the pun. And I know I'm sounding like a salty sausage, but did you know that this game had 5 drafts before we got to this? Yeah, in a previous version, Garcia being shirtless at the start of this game was going to be a bigger thing, where in the opener, he would slowly acquire his gear to build up the mystery. But EA shut this idea down because, and I quote, "Westerners are about guns." Granted, I couldn't find a source for this quote anywhere apart from Wikipedia, so take this with a mountain of speculative smegma, but this, and I'm putting on my conspiracy hat here, feels extremely EA. And okay, Suda's games tend to be simple, but in his stronger work, everything, the graphics, the music, and such, all funnels into the gameplay. While some call it style over substance, and personally I hate that term, it's appropriate. But if there was something I hated during this second playthrough, it was the treatment of Paula. Later on in the game, there is a bit where Garcia talks about his squeeze, and just watch.
You know I found Paula in a dumpster, right?
What? You said you met her at the supermarket.
I did. It was the bin out behind the dime a dozen.
And you just picked her up out of the rubbish and brought her home?
Why no?
Sometimes I think I hardly know you.
Yeah, this story is just left here, and if you're looking for a follow-up, you don't get it. Anyway, the pinecone in my prostate is how Paula is brutalized. And alright, fine, she is supposed to be a damsel in distress. A well-known, if tired trope, that in another timeline would have been fun to see Suda dial that shit up to 35 in a parody of itself. However, I don't think the sardonic spin here connects. And to me, it's a case of a parody basically doing the same shit it's satirizing with a knowing wink to the camera. If it's satire in the first place, which I'm still unsure of. And while I don't think this is intentional on Suda's part, Paula is here to be minced for the sake of a lazy plot device. And while she may have been a deeper character in a discarded draft, all she is here is to be a masochistic fly, born to have her wings pulled off for a cheap pop, or as a platform to saunter over in an act of symbolism, I think? Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. Would TikTok clock be improved by swapping every texture with tits? Yeah, probably not. And this just feels like a mandate from EA, who is pandering to the lowest common denominator. And I know that quote from earlier is stuck in my craw, but this just screams, we don't need an ad layer to give these questionable characters a reason to be. Nah, we just give gamers guns, tits and ass. That's what they want, right? That'll get them queuing up at midnight outside a brick and mortar to buy 10 copies for all their straight white jock mates. Ha! Call of Duty? More like cock and balls. Yeah, this hyperbolic screed is falling apart. And sure, in the 2000s, geek culture became mainstream, so the dudes that would have scoffed at games or comics and such were now the target demo, and they're buying a lot of games with army dickheads slapped on the cover, but bending everything to appeal to them is short-sighted. This notion of, quote, Westerners being all about guns is just like Paula's portrayal, tone deaf. And I can't shake off the image of Suda rolling his eyes when some corpo nonsense plonked into his inbox. So let's lighten the mood with this.
Oh, we're surrounded by giant hell monkeys. They'll cream us if we get too close. Quick, take me over to that phone.
Right now?
Trust me, G.
Thanks for calling Angel Kiss, sugar. I'm not wearing anything but a smile. How about you?
Oh my god, 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 Shawik, Shawik, Shawik!
Now that is a big boner. Test my big boner! It's good!
Now that's what I call a kill streak. And yeah, for its sins, there are moments in Shadows of the Damned, like this, where that irreverent energy is still here. Those over-the-top bits that make me go, whenever I pop in a Suda joint. And I know some of you think I'm some kind of harsh critic, but putting games like this through the ringer, ones I loved in the past, brings me no joy. I would love to say everything's honky-dory, and I do respect that Grasshopper saved this from total obscurity, but as a game lined up against their previous work, I cannot help but feel limp. Whoa. But then we get this opera singing lass, which she looks like she stepped off the set of a Hellraiser sequel that no one ever watched, but as a concept, this is a character I can get behind. And later on, this tangent turns into a side-scrolling shooter, where you have to chase her down, which is once again classic Suda, throwing in goofy gamery moments to spice things up. Hell, I might be the only person in the world who liked the lawn mowing minigame in No More Heroes. But the thing is... and I hate to be mean here, what is this? Okay, it breaks up the pace of the game, as is intended, but at what cost? Especially when you compare it to Death Smiles. Akai Katana. And if bullet hell isn't your bag, Andro Duros 2. Sinimora, a game that was co-developed by Grasshopper. Okay, it sucks, but as you can see, these comparisons, while unfair, I would rather play than this lumbering slog. And the boss fight after multiple levels of this shit is inane. While I love the papercraft art style, this just feels half done at best. And this is where the quote remaster fails to, rework shit. If this was an actual overhaul, leaving this untouched is embarrassing. Luckily our foe here is a silver lining, as the monster designs, especially the bosses, look amazing. And this of course is no fluke, as it was made by manga artist Q Hayashida, who, fun fact, worked on an adaptation of Markin X, another game I would love to cover on the Game Asylum. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. The reason why I mention this is due to another supposed superstar tag team, this time with an illustrator that our friends at Electronic Arts shut down, called Masahiro Ito. You know, the bloke that created some of the most iconic monsters in this pissin' medium. And this factoid just blows my mind. You had the guy that gets horny on his socials for his own sultry designs, plus dunking on Cho to obsessively read into shit, chucking twisted concepts on the table, which look like, well, Silent Hill rejects. But if you have the dude that made Pyramid Head inspired to work on this project, you would bring him in, right? No. Stick that crap in a bin and give me more hacky knob gags to pad out the runtime. And yes, I know I'm pinning a lot of shit to this donkey, and hating on EA at this point is a meme. But the more I learned about how Mr. Moneybags got in the way of a supergroup of creatives that know how to make banger after banger, the more I felt frustrated. And fine, we've heard this term before, but to create is to compromise. But fuck me. And okay, I'm banging on about this because the story behind the scenes is far more interesting than the game itself. But the more I went down that rabbit hole, the more stuff I just found, and it just blows me away how one company just doesn't seem to get their audience. But anyway, let's get off this punching up session and really get into the part where Shadows of the Damned, for me, comes together. And of course, this has to be behind a spoiler warning, as someone in my comments will cry about me blowing the narrative load to a game that they will never play. The main reason why this final stretch works for me is how it's structured. When you boil the story down, this adventure is portrayed like a road trip. The thing is, all the stuff before the tower, the last chapter of this game, is filler, and it's so uninteresting I can barely remember anything. But here at Fleming's Tower? Really? That's his name? Nah. No, he's a Melvin to me. So yeah, the Tower of Melvin is where they start experimenting with the light dark puzzle stuff. Like going through portals to find the correct exit, or finding weak spots dotted around the levels to shoot to progress. Yeah, okay, some habits are hard to shake, okay? And also more minigames like bowling, where you use the charge up shotgun thing to fire a massive exploding ball to take out the pins. It's pretty fun for what it is. Sadly, this gun outside of this context is fucking awful, and I rarely used it unless I had no ammo for my other two guns. Yes, in an 8-hour long game, all you have is 3 weapons. In a shooter. Fucking magnifico. And one level in particular that I really liked is one where you move platforms in 3D space to walk across. And yes, I know, and I keep saying this, it's basic, but it's something different from running to a room and pointlessly blasting shit. Alright, it's not, but I'm going to give it points for attempting something different. Whatever. We finally make it to the summit, where Melvin is chewing on our GS in a thigh. But oh no, in a fit of rage, Garcia shoots his squeeze by accident, which sets off an existential flashback, and the realization that this place is a dark reflection of his own guilt. Wait, that's the wrong game. So anyway, I started blasting the weak points like a good little simp, using all the mechanics that have been drummed into me throughout this entire fucking game. Like I'm some kind of sleeper agent who thrives on tedium. Fuck it, fast forward. After a protracted fight, Melvin carks it, and our lovers finally embrace.
And what you see might be.
And yeah, you know this is a ruse. And Paula, after all of this shit she's been through, dating this twat, finally decides to choke a bitch.
Why didn't you console me? Why did you let me die each time? Tell me why! Why did you make me suffer all alone? Don't you love me? Why are the demons after me? Is it because of you? Why must I suffer because of you? What about me? Where is my freedom?
Paula, forgive me.
Right? You brought this onto yourself, you bellend. And I will say, this is where the game won me over, as this fight is that old Suda we know. This is where my reviewer hat slipped off and my ape brain took over, and while it's just another formulaic tussle, its bombast is on par with all the previous works our Rockstar devs are known for, if you can ignore the fact that our lead is shooting his girlfriend to bring her to her senses, taking that toxic line of "I can fix her" to a ridiculous degree. But through persistence and high caliber ordnance, our couple are finally together. In death? ? Nope, we are back at the apartment, with Akira giving us the good shit.
Garcia, it's you. We're together. Finally.
And you know what? I'm cool with this ending. Sure, it's a bit fucky in terms of couple dynamics, and well, Garcia being as interesting as a deep-fried copy of Razzle, but at least it felt like it was all worth it in the end. Oh, hang on.
Hello?
You can tell so much about a man from what he puts between his buns.
Who is this?
In case you're wondering, my answer would unfortunately have to be none of the above. After all, I am so much more than any man. I only throw human patties on my grill. Just like I only throw human honeys on my bed. Cha-cha!
Garcia, you're taking too long. We're still eating. Back to your seat.
Oops. Shit. Paula, let's book that hotel fast, huh? Before they get here.
Yes, let's. Uh-oh. It's raining.
You have no idea.
They're coming, G.
Too late to book that hotel, huh?
No! No! Garcia! No!
Here we go again. My name is Garcia Hotspur, hunter of demons. Fate has led me to fall in love with the Lord of the Underworld's mistress. His horde of minions will never stop coming to claim her. But I have sworn to strike them down, each and every one, until she is mine alone. I will take on the whole world if I must, slay every creature in my path. Because I still see love in her eyes. And because I love killing fucking demons.
Yep, Paula is the mistress of Melvin. So Garcia, the big, strong, manly man, must kill all the demons until he can have her for himself. Yeah, it's a sequel bait ending. Oh lordy Lou, the saga continues. Wu-Tang, woo, yeah, this shit ain't getting a sequel. And we play out with Johnson giving us a jaunty freestyle rap.
Demon keeps dreaming of a demon town. Motherfucker, bitch, fuck, shit went down. Fleming's got an itch, scratch it with a bitch. Demon keeps dreaming of a demon town.
Actually, in my footage, it sounded like this.
Went down. Fleming's got an itch, scratch it with a bitch. Demon keeps dreaming of a demon.
Which is far better in my opinion. So yeah, that was Shadows of the Damned. And if you hate my long-winded screeds at the end of videos, in a nutsack, it's disappointing. Consider you had a group of talented people that us B-grade gaming sickos would nut just by thinking of them, the end product feels like a compromise. And the more I dive into the backseat stuff, and how EA pushed for the game to be shallow for a wide market acceptance is depressing, as the subversive elements that made Suda's work so much fun has been sanded off due to this hubris. And this is also a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes Grasshopper, Grasshopper. Without this added layer of nuance, you end up with a functional if benign game that is screaming with potential, but by the time it launched, it just screams of, ugh, let's just get this over with already. And for a team that leans into its punkiness, this Phil Collins style corpo rock clashes with that mentality. While it's not terrible to me as a Suda slut, probably best not to get that slogan on a t-shirt, the best way I can sum up Shadows, while it plays fine and if you're in a mood for this, can be entertaining, it's inessential, especially when not even a year later, Grasshopper would bring out what is easily their finest work, Mikami would quickly form his own outfit and have a short but incredible run of games, and Yamaoka would score titles like World of Tanks? Well, yeah, that derailed my train of thought. I was going to add something profound and touching at the end, but, bollocks to it. Fuck EA. Whoa.